to people who are listening, like you can also experience none of that. Like you can just
Oh
be
yeah,
totally chilled and it's all good.
exactly.
And that's normal too. If you don't cry, no one's going to judge you going, oh my God, you did not release anything. No,
Yes.
no, no, no,
Yes.
no.
So I do say, do not anticipate
Yes.
a
Yes.
detox, and it's like, oh, let's look for something,
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
happen, and then oh, nothing's happening. I'm just feeling really calm and really chill, and I go, so what's wrong with that?
Yes,
And they go,
exactly.
oh, okay, so I guess that's okay. I said, yeah. So nothing needs to happen. You're feeling really calm and really peaceful and really relaxed. Great,
Mm.
fantastic.
Yeah, celebrate that. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Shifter Tribra. I'm your host, Shibra Benetti. And on today's episode, we'll be speaking to Elaine Yang. So, 2020 has been quite an interesting year, to say the least. And I think for quite a few of us, it's been a little bit of a stressful one as well. While we cram, work commitments, family duties, socializing, and trying to take care of our mental health and needs, um, having a break is a little bit of something that's a bit hard to come by today. And before we used to just pick up our bag, pack our bags, and just pick up a ticket and travel. And now travel is out of the question. So what can you do to relax? Well, today we have Elaine Yang, who is a certified Usui Reiki teacher at the Reiki Center in Singapore, and as well as the founder of Reiki Glow. And Elaine also holds regular crystal sound baths as well as Reiki self-care evenings. And self-care evenings are to encourage Reiki practitioners to have a focus on Reiki self-care and to introduce beginners as well to Reiki and sound healing. So we're going to be talking to Elaine about how you can maybe optimize your relaxation without the fact of going away. Um, but how you can probably relax with a crystal sound bath instead and get some Reiki self care, and what are those and how it might benefit you. So, thank you so much for tuning in today, and I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. So, thanks for coming onto the podcast, and thank you very much for giving your time and expertise today. I
Thank
think what
you.
I'd really like for people to understand is what is crystal sound healing or crystal singing bowls, or what would you call it? Is it crystal sound bath, crystal sound therapy, is it crystal sound healing? What is it, what do you call it, and what does it do? And a little bit about your journey, sorry, about how you found it. Sorry, there's many questions in one.
Okay, no problem. So maybe just start with I'll start with how I actually brought it into my practice.
Mm.
About 4 years ago, I was at a retreat. So I was co-facilitating that particular retreat, and I'm a Reiki teacher first and foremost before I brought crystal singing bowls into my practice. So that retreat was in Australia,
Okay.
and it was with a lady whom I do see as my mentor as well, and her name is Victoria Webby. She does sound healing and light language. So using
Ooh.
the vibration of sound um, and light language to facilitate healing. And what she wanted to do in the retreat was to bring me in to introduce Reiki
Ah.
in addition to what she was offering as part of a session.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, that's cool, let's do it and see how it goes. And so in that session, I had previously already experienced sound healing myself, and I know the effects of it. So it's extremely calming. You definitely notice shifts after, but I hadn't experienced it together with Reiki. So that session, she was doing her light language and she was doing her crystal singing bowls. And I moved around the room to give Reiki to the participants. And it was very obvious how the shifts are a lot deeper, a lot quicker than how my usual hands-on sessions with Reiki are without the sound. So I
Mm.
think that moment was when I realized how powerful sound really is, and I decided to kind of bring it into my practice a little bit more. At that time, I did have one singing bowl,
Okay.
and I was using it with my sessions sometimes. But I think that was that moment when I realized, oh wow, I didn't see how powerful sound is. If you can
Mm.
move the session in such a way, why wouldn't I be bringing it more into my sessions and doing more with it. So I started bringing the crystal singing bowls in. So from one it became three, and then I was like, I'm done with four, and then next thing I know, I've got nine. So that's how it all started. And so really, I see it as, we talk about it as sound healing.
Yeah.
And then with sound healing, there's so many different tools. Reiki,
Right.
sorry, not Reiki. Crystal singing bowls is just one of them. I think a more appropriate term would be vibrational healing.
Okay.
Because sound is simply frequencies and vibrations that are
Yes.
audible,
Mm.
right? And it moves through your system really quickly because we are 70% water thereabouts, right? So
Yes.
it moves real quick through
Yes.
your body.
Yeah.
And our system has this innate wisdom and intelligence um, on healing itself. It knows how to heal itself and is constantly, every second, trying to come more into balance. So whatever you give it supports that process.
Mm.
So crystal singing bowls is just one of many sound healing tools, and really, we're talking about the science of sound. It affects your body on a cellular level because, as I was saying, it moves through your system quite quickly, and it also affects the brain waves.
Mm.
So what happens is during a sound bath or even after, you notice you can feel a lot calmer,
Yeah.
the brain is a lot quieter.
Mm.
Often there are releases that happen in a session as well. So sometimes it's more emotional, sometimes it's very physical. So people could feel like the body jerks.
Yeah.
Um, they could feel some tension coming up and then releasing. Essentially, it is whatever the system needs to do to come into balance,
Right.
more into balance in that moment. So that would be how I actually explain a session
Mm.
and what it does.
Right. And in terms of like, does it always have to be in a group set? No, you mentioned that you also do it for private
Oh, I
sessions
do.
as well.
Yeah.
And you incorporate it with your Reiki, but you also do group sessions. So you was talking about how it works with yoga and with Reiki.
Mm.
And now you're offering it virtually. So then when you're offering it also virtually, does the effect slightly change, or is it just as, because I'm trying to I'm obviously assuming that it's just as powerful, but then there is also an element when you're right near those vibrations,
For
and
sure. For sure.
right.
Yeah. Um, I wouldn't. I would say that yes, it's definitely like you said, it's just as powerful. But there is the element that being right next to the crystal balls and feeling the vibrations against your body, or in the body because it's right in the room with you. That's not there. But in terms of how effective it is, it doesn't necessarily make it less effective. It makes the experience different, if
Mm,
that makes sense.
mm,
So for some people, that is something that they want to have, right? Be right in front of the bowls and feel the bowls, in physical proximity to you. And I also have a lot of feedback, which is the exact opposite, that they say they prefer the virtual.
right.
They do notice in terms of what they get out of the sessions, like how their body responds, how they feel a lot clearer after the session, and really, a lot of it is an expansion of consciousness.
Mm,
They all experience that, and they find that being in their own space, in their own room, help helps them open up a little bit more because they're a
mm,
lot more comfortable, right?
mm,
And they find they don't really do that in a group space. There
mm,
is some level of resistance that they may not be aware was there until they are able to do it in their own space.
mm.
So there is an element that's missing, but not it doesn't necessarily make it less powerful. In fact, for some of these participants, it make it a lot more powerful simply because they're
Yes.
in a more comfortable place to be more open.
Right. Yeah. So then they're less disturbed by their maybe their own thoughts or their own resistance that's coming up, and therefore the
Yeah.
powerful, yeah, the experience is just as powerful that way. And when
Yes.
you go to, I mean, we'll come to the expanding of consciousness because I'm really interested
Mm.
in understanding what that means, or at least for our listeners and viewers on what that is. But maybe just talk about the elements of like when someone walks into a sound bath. Let's say someone has never gone to one, right? Okay, so there's an aspect of them regaining balance. There's an aspect of healing. There's an aspect of relaxing.
Mm.
When they walk into it, are they sitting? Are they lying down? Is there a particular way to be immersed in it? Can you walk it through to a complete newbie who's never ever experienced it, and why they might want to consider it, if I haven't covered the reason already?
I usually get people to lie down just by
Hmm.
default because when you are lying down, for most people, is when they are the most relaxed and the most open, right?
Mm,
And very often, the sound baths can take people into really deep rest, so they fall
mm,
into sleep.
mm,
And you don't even have to be awake for the sounds to do what it needs to do with your system. Um, and because of that, I say, okay, so default, I have mats, lie down. But I also tell the participants if you feel drawn to sit and meditate, do that. So whatever that makes them the most comfortable, I
right.
ask them to do. Because the way I see it is your openness makes a huge difference to the depth of the healing for that session. And there are certain things that can be controlled when it comes to that openness and certain things that cannot. Some people just come in not as open. Some people come in completely open, right?
Mm,
And then for some people, sitting in meditation is the safe space where they feel really comfortable, really open. And for some people, they want to lie down and relax, you know?
mm,
So I let them decide what's best for them. I even say if you feel a need to lie on the side, at some point in the meditation, or rather in the sound bath, do that. So listen
right.
to what your body wants you to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I say to people who are new to a sound bath walking in. I say, well,
Mm.
whatever's most comfortable with you, you can lie down, you can lie on the side, you can sit. If you need to move at some point during the session, please do that. Listen to your body. The body tells you.
Right. And then if you're lying, let's say you're lying down, is your head towards the bowls or away from the bowls? Does it make a difference?
Uh, some people like it towards the bows, like the stronger the better, right?
No.
Like, oh, I love it. I want to be very near the bows. And then with some other people, it's a bit too much,
Mm,
right? Because our sensitivity is also very different. So I let people who are very new, they come in. If I have a bit of time, like if they come a bit earlier, what I tend to do is, okay, come and sit next to the bows. I'm going to play the bows for a little bit, and you tell me, or rather, you just feel into it. Do you want to be near them? Do you want
mm.
to be a little bit further? And I let them decide.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice. Okay. Yeah, because everyone's frequencies are slightly different of
for
what they
sure.
need. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So then what are the, so as I said, like obviously there's some aspects of healing, relaxation, bringing into balance or centering. Um why would people, or why have people come to you for sound baths? Can you say some of the reasons that they've come or taken apart for this?
Oh, there's so many.
Yeah, share all. No, no, no.
Yeah, how
We
many
have
hours do we have?
time. We have some time. It's
We
no,
have some time.
share as many as you think are going to be helpful for people,
Mm,
because some people may just think, oh, this is meditation, this is relaxing. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. But there are so many other reasons out there. So I'd love to know what other reasons some of your clients come to you for.
Well, really, like you said, sometimes it's just I'm really stressed and just looking for any avenue that can help me feel less stress. It could be as simple as that, especially this year, right? There's so much
Yeah,
going on. It's been really interesting, and everybody's trying to navigate with their way, with so much going on, trying to figure out what to do next, trying to figure out the next step. It can be quite stressful and bring
yeah,
up anxiety for a lot of people. So, yeah, so it could be that for mental well-being. I'm really stressed out. I want something to just help calm me down. It could also be, some people experience a lot of pain physical pain, and they're wondering if the sound baths can help alleviate the pain. And it may, but I also have a different conversation with them, because in healing, sometimes the pain may escalate first before it gets better. So that's really the
Yes.
process of healing, right? It gets
Yes.
worse before it gets better. So I have a
Yeah.
conversation with them as well. And for some people, they're just curious.
Mm.
Like, so what is this whole sound healing? Why is everybody talking about it? What does it do? I'm just sitting here listening to music. So there's also people who are curious. Then there are the people who are already on this journey of finding modalities that work with them, as they're doing their own personal work, as they are doing as they're really working on their own healing and personal transformation, whatever that is for each individual, and they want to see how sound can support that.
Mm.
So really, all kinds. Yeah.
Right. I mean, let's talk about then ex- well, let's first talk about maybe like the process of it. So they come in, and then in terms of like is there a are you playing a certain set of scores?
Yes, I get a question a lot. Like, do you know when to heat what?
Yeah, are you doing it through intuition or are you playing it through a certain already set pattern of which bowls to hit when and stuff like that? Is there a set score, music score?
Yeah, there actually isn't. So I do play by pure intuition, and really just feeling into the energy of the space. So it is intuition, and it's a connection of the space of the room. So which, different participants coming in changes that
Mm,
space as well. And then also every single day the energies are a bit different. Like right now uh we just had a really powerful blue moon, right?
yeah.
So
Mm,
times like that, also there's a whole other energy that's going on. I am tuning to it on a collective level. So as I'm in the room with people coming in, I'm tuning to the collective energy and what to play to, if that makes sense.
yeah.
And my bows, this is gonna sound like what to some people, but I always feel like they are playing themselves, and my hands are the instrument.
Mm,
So I can feel the vibrations even when I'm not hitting them, if
mm,
that makes sense. So when my,
mm.
my bowls are there and I'm sitting quietly tuning to the energy, and as I'm ready, I feel and I know which bowl wants me to hit it first.
Right.
And then I start to move.
Mm.
Yeah,
So it's a very it's very orchestrated, but it seems like the bowls are orchestrating it more, and you're just facilitating that orchestration.
exactly. So the bowls are facilitating it and the energy. So it's a very collective
Mm.
that's happening. And I'm just tuning to that. And then I am necessary for the bowls to play.
Yeah.
I play themselves, my hands need to be there. So for me, it's really that. And I find that that's really, is what makes it so effective.
Mm.
If if that makes sense, it's kind of like every group is different
Mm.
and every day is different.
Yeah.
So every single session, I am tuning to a different energy.
Yeah.
And the more open I can be with how the sound bath today needs to go, and me just listening to it, the more powerful the session will be. But this is just my own experience
Mm.
from playing the bowls for the past 4 years. And of
Mm.
course, there are many different ways really to facilitate sound healing. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
So whatever resonates with the facilitator, one, and whatever resonates with the participants, two. Yeah.
Is there a certain material? So you say the bowls are made of crystals, right?
Yeah.
Because that's why it's called crystal sound bath. Is there a reason what, well, maybe what type of crystals and why specifically these ones are being used?
So the ones that I'm using, apart from one, which was a personal gift from a friend, the rest of them are all from crystal tones, and they are made of pure gemstones and quartz and precious metals like silver, gold, platinum, and crystals themselves has energy.
Mm.
The way it works is the sound amplifies that healing energy of the crystals as well as
Right.
just the frequencies and the vibration of the sound itself. So there are multiple layers here. And my bowls, they are made from different gemstones. So there is ruby, there is rose quartz, there is citrine and platinum, quite a few, which I've acquired over the years. Yeah. And individually, it does something for sure. So every individual bowl is connected to a chakra,
Mm.
but because I'm playing them as a group and a team, it's important and it's also not important because I am collectively the energy changes,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So sometimes though during a session, one particular bowl might be more how would I put it? It's coming up a lot more during the session itself. So I may play it maybe like 40% of the time. So
Right.
it might be, say, the throat chakra bowl. So possibly either the particular energies of that day is around working with authenticity, or
Right.
it could be in the group. There are quite a number of people who are working with, living with more authenticity, standing more in the truth. And this is what I mean by I'm just feeling into the energy and playing because it's different every single time.
Yeah.
But the less my head gets into it, the better it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And how so when you were talking about how people sometimes have for it to get worse before it gets better.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? And what could that potentially be? Because obviously if someone walks into a crystal singing about, they're just thinking, ah, well, not always, right? But the people maybe who are walking in first time, they're going, oh, I'm just gonna relax. And then they might encounter, for example, what type of symptoms and why does it happen? And
Mm,
why should it not deter them to go back?
so, what tends to happen in a session, which can be uncomfortable, is when people have an emotional release. So, people cry,
Yeah.
right? And of course, the mind goes, "Oh, why the heck I'm crying? I'm just lying here in a dark room of people. I don't get it." And I think a lot of us are very conditioned to repress what's not
Mm.
pleasant.
Yeah.
So an emotion, for instance, something happens and you're affected by it, or
Mm.
something happens and makes you a little bit anxious. And for many people, the first instinctive response is, okay, let's shut it down. But there is a need to process these emotions. There's a need for you to acknowledge it so you can either move beyond it or see what's causing the anxiety, for instance, because a lot of that is our belief systems that, especially this time, it's so important to look at how our belief systems are really holding us back, right?
Yeah.
In this time of change.
Yeah.
And also sometimes just for the emotion to move through your
Mm.
system so it can be released. And when you are holding it back or you're resisting it, that cannot happen.
Mm.
And in a sound session, there is the space that's created for that to happen in a much gentler and obviously a safer space because you're being held by
Mm.
the energy of the bows. I do talk about that prior to the session, and I do say that remember your body, right, knows exactly what it needs to do, and you have to trust that.
Yeah.
The more you are able to trust and surrender to the process, the more profound this session can be for you. So if you find yourself crying, know that that is good for you. It's a
Mm.
release. It's better
Mm.
out than in, really. Holding it
Yeah.
in doesn't support you at all.
Yeah.
That very often just really help the participants feel safer, I guess,
Hmm.
in the process. So I don't often get people who get stressed out about it after,
Yeah.
because I would have usually covered it.
Is
Yeah.
there any other symptoms that they may experience after they leave the sound bath?
So I do also talk about the unfolding, right?
Hmm.
So obviously healing is a process,
Yeah.
isn't it? So some of it happens in the session, some of it happens after. And I do say over the next few days, make sure you drink a lot of water. Number one, your body does need a lot more water to stay hydrated when it's going through quite a number of shifts.
Mm.
So for some people, they might notice they're more aware. There's an increase of awareness of their emotions, of also how the body is feeling. So many of us run on adrenaline. We don't
Mm.
even really connect to the physical body very much. So I say just be, just notice what's happening to the body over the next few days. If you're a bit tired, know that that's your body telling you need
Yeah.
rest. Um, if you're feeling emotions, just acknowledge it. So, because we're resisting it, then really persist and
Yeah.
nothing moves.
Yeah.
And I say to just really understand that your body is trying to move more into alignment. And that process is very unique for every individual.
Mm.
Yes. And then let them know, if there's any questions, always reach out to me. And I get questions like, oh, I'm feeling really tired. Is that normal? And then I always go, yeah, that's absolutely normal. So
Yeah.
my answer is the same every time. But they know that they can reach out to me if
Yes.
they are going through something that they're not quite understanding or is a bit unusual for them. But
Mm.
yeah, but prior to them leaving the suburb, I do highlight that this is all normal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because and of course to people who are listening, like you can also experience none of that. Like you can just
Oh
be
yeah,
totally chilled and it's all good.
exactly.
And that's normal too. If you don't cry, no one's gonna judge you going, "Oh my God, you did not release anything." No,
Yes.
no, no, no,
Yes.
no.
So I do say, do not anticipate
Yes,
a
yes.
detox, and it's like, oh, let's look for something,
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
happen, and then oh, nothing's happening. I'm just feeling really calm and really chill, and I go, so what's wrong with that?
Yes,
And they go,
exactly.
oh, okay, so I guess that's okay. I said, yeah. So nothing needs to happen. You're feeling really calm and really peaceful and really relaxed. Great,
Mm.
fantastic.
Yeah, celebrate that.
Yes, exactly, right?
Celebrate whichever way it is, whether you're releasing or you're not, where you're not literally releasing. It's both
Yes.
okay. It's both a celebration that way.
Yes, because sometimes the movement that happens in the sound bath itself is quite subtle, and you
Mm,
don't necessarily feel it in such an intense level. You don't need to. You really don't. So there are the people who think that healing needs to be really easy, and
mm,
then there are the people who think that healing needs to be really difficult.
yeah.
But it doesn't have to be either extreme.
Mm,
It can be somewhere in the middle, really. And when you let go of how you see healing to
yes.
be,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
then that happens for you on a much organic level, right?
Yeah. Mm,
And you really are able to benefit from not just sound healing, anything that you bring in.
mm,
Let go of how you want the process to look like.
yeah.
Because you really don't know. You have no idea at all.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Because I think, I mean, you talked about it as well. Like all of us come with our own belief systems of how everything should be, and also
Yes.
healing is part of that. Like we're thinking, not that everyone's thinking, but like some people may be thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna have this big release, or I'm gonna have this
I
big
know.
emotion, I'm gonna have this major revelation. May
Yes.
not happen. And it's, the more that we put that pressure on ourselves to have, sometimes makes, unfortunately, we don't take the full benefit of just being in the session and just being
Yes.
present with it.
Yes.
Yeah. Can we just talk a little bit about, is there any limitations to the sound bath, instead, like, can everyone do it? Is it limited to ages? Is it pregnant women, all of that? Like, is there any limitations on who can go for a sound bath?
Mm, well, I am with children. I'm a little bit more careful because they are so sensitive. It can feel like a lot. So for kids, so far the youngest that I have, and this is really a number that's just I'm comfortable with, right?
Mm,
Um, I have done a sound bath where there was a 8 or 9 year old, and that
mm-hmm,
felt okay. And
mm-hmm,
then there was once where I had someone wanting to bring her 5 year old, and okay, that's a little bit young. So I think that child that I brought in was probably about 9 or 10. So, when you tell me how old your age is, the age of the child is, I get a sense. Anything under 8, I'm
Mm.
usually quite, wouldn't mind doing a sound bath just for that child, because then it would be done very differently,
Yeah.
right? A lot gentler. But when it's a group session like this,
Right. Yeah.
then yes, I am, yeah, maybe not under the age of 9, and in certain sessions, not under 12.
Mm.
So I'm feeling to how intense that session could
Might
be.
be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a good note for people who are considering if they should bring their children along to a session. What about women who are pregnant? Is there any restrictions on that?
I actually have a lady who was pregnant, and actually two of them who attended sound baths right through to the end of, to when they deliver. But I have to say that different practitioners does their sessions differently.
Right.
So I cannot speak for all, and how they actually do the sound baths, because some of them might be too intense
Right.
for pregnant ladies. But my sessions so far, um, I've had pregnant ladies come in, and when they ask me, say, yeah, absolutely,
Mm.
they can definitely support you.
Yeah. Okay. So that's okay. So then maybe what if someone was looking for a sound bath, right? Not just yours, but anywhere. What should they be looking at in terms of criteria? Maybe if there was a checklist of things that they should be, how would they select a good sound bath? It's very hard because obviously you haven't experienced it with the
Yeah,
practitioner, so you wouldn't know.
it is really
Um,
hard. But the one thing that I want to first stress is, if there is a fear
mm,
around it, like if you're worried or you're a bit fearful, then I actually tell the participants, but if you're feeling a little bit worried about it, right? And even if I'm telling you it's going to be okay, and you're not sure and you're a little bit afraid, don't come in feeling
mm,
afraid. It doesn't make sense. So
mm,
you must feel comfortable
yep.
with it. First and foremost, it has to
Mm,
feel right. So that's the first thing that they need to look at. Am I comfortable? And that includes a few things. Am I comfortable with this sound healing tool? It could be a gong, and gong might feel too intense for some people, right? And am I comfortable with the practitioner? So this you can only gauge from either, obviously, sometimes some friend of yours has attended the session. It could be through her website. Get a sense of that, and then make a decision.
mm,
Yeah.
okay.
So some people, like, I have heard certain crystal sound baths that do feel a lot more intense,
Mm,
and that then could feel, too much
mm,
for a lady who's pregnant. So the other thing that I also suggest is, if all feels right
yep.
and you sign up and you go in, and in the middle you don't feel comfortable, step out.
Yep.
So listen to that instinct and go, okay,
Mm,
this is a bit too much.
yep.
I'm going to step out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point because I think a lot of people, I know I'm that kind of person, lie there and I'm like, I'm actually feeling very uncomfortable, but it might be very rude and disruptive if I start
Yes.
moving. So I'm just
Yes.
gonna lie here still. Um, but no, that's a very good point that if you can listen to your body and if you're not feeling comfortable, just please like just get up and go. And of course, if you're enjoying it, then enjoy it. But always listen to your body and definitely feel out the practitioner. um just in terms of like, is there anything that they shouldn't be doing after the session?
I tell people not to do too much work on the laptop and
Mm-hmm.
on the phone. So give your body some time to really integrate the sound bath, instead of trying to jump head on back into work. Then the body doesn't have time to really settle, right?
Yeah.
The integration doesn't happen. And then it just prolongs the process of healing, if that makes sense. So, for instance, if your system is processing a lot of emotions,
Mm.
and you're not giving yourself some time and space for that, and then it goes back to stuffing it back down so you can do some work,
Yeah.
right? Or if your mind is just starting to relax, right, and you're starting to come down already and be in a quiet space, but you don't give yourself permission to be with that for a while. You jump straight into work, then that's kind of a shame, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do say that, and like I said, with every session, you do want to give some time and space for the integration to happen. So when you're, doing the project at 10 p.m., 2 hours after the sound bath, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you also might feel a little bit spacey as well. So you might not necessarily you'd be putting so much pressure on your senses and in your on your head just to be doing something that much focused as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, because after the session, it's quite possible to feel a little bit like hated almost,
Mm. Mm.
um, in a relaxed way, not in a woo
Yeah.
way, but that doesn't help when you are trying to focus on putting a slide together, and then it does put even more stress on the system, like you said. So that defeats the purpose of going to the sound bath in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's like running like a marathon, then lying down for like 10 minutes and then running a sprint right after. It makes no sense. Your body's just gonna go, what are you doing?
exactly, what are you doing? I thought you're trying to help me coming back into a place of more equilibrium. I don't feel very balanced right now when you're
Yeah.
like that. Yes. So
Yes.
yes, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, so then, just out of curiosity, Elaine, so you're offering obviously this in physical locations like Triumph Fitness. Are you offering it, in other locations, and where are you offering it?
So right now, the two physical locations are One Heart and Triumph Fitness, and then my virtual sound baths are going to be twice a month until at least the end of this year, and I'm going to feel into what I want to do next year when the government opens up a little bit. So it will be a balance.
Hmm.
So people have options, because one of the feedback that I got from participants is, even when the physical sound baths, the in-person sound baths are back, they want to have an option where they can go on a virtual sound bath, because it's also nice not to have to rush to another location.
Yep.
That's one, and it's also nice to be able to do it in the space of their bedroom where they feel very comfortable and they can be more open. So I will probably be offering both.
And will you be also offering it as like private sessions as well, virtual and in person?
For sure. So the private sessions have been ongoing ever since I started offering Soundbound. So people can also book that in as well. So the private sessions can be one-on-one, or more often I get like a private group. So they
Hmm.
bring together family members, and right now, of course, it's limited to five.
Yeah.
So they can bring in a group of up to five people, and then the bowls play for this group specifically.
Nice. Okay. So we'll be providing Elaine's, contact details and all the booking details down in the show notes below. And I think just to wrap up this conversation, I did want to talk a little bit about the expansion of consciousness, but I'm just so not so sure what. Okay, no, let's just go there. Let's just go there before we wrap up. But what do you mean that it's when someone's going for these kind of crystal sound bath that it's expanding of their consciousness? What does that mean to you?
I think we hold on to a lot. You know how we were talking about belief systems and how
Yeah.
we were talking about conditioning, and we hold on to that a lot simply because it's what served us for a while, right? And when we are in a crystal singing bowl sound bath, and there is this dropping, if that makes sense, of everything that you've been hanging on to prior to the sound bath, there is an opportunity and potential to see beyond what you have known, to be helpful.
Mm.
Uh, that's one. So, for instance, people start to see how, oh, I have all of these fears, and at this in this moment, it's not supporting me, because this is something that is not real and is only real in my head, right?
Mm.
There is
Yes.
also this, like during this period of COVID, it is, like I said, very interesting time.
Yeah.
But it is also a time where people are experiencing gratitude in a whole different way. So when you drop all of that, right? The limiting beliefs, the stress, you connect to just the stillness that is within all of us. We often talk about trying to find peace,
Yes.
but really the peace is right there. It's not us trying to look for it, it's taking a look at what's taking us away from it.
Hmm.
And when you can see, when there's the expansion of consciousness, there is gratitude for all that we are and all that we have.
Hmm.
And you look at everything from a whole different lens, whole different perspective.
Yeah.
The fear drops, gratitude comes up. The idea of hanging on to pretty much everything, people, relationships, belief systems, you start to really question that and go, why am I holding on to this? That for me is an expansion of consciousness.
Hmm. Yeah.
And you can only do that in a space when you're more in alignment
Yes.
and more centered, which is
Hmm.
what the sound baths can take you to. But there
Hmm.
has also to be a willingness, of course, to walk that journey, right?
Yeah.
And that is very individual, and it's really, everybody has a different time. I absolutely believe that. And I feel like whatever you get out of the sound baths, whether it is something as simple as my body is taking the time to rest, some people really just sleep throughout the entire time and they can't usually do that on their own. Or it could be this revelation that, oh wow, I am really hanging on to so much. Wow, this fear that, things are not going to change is really keeping me in a very contracted space because everything right now is unknown.
Yeah.
And you can see it two ways. One is it's unknown, it's really scary. I have no idea what's going to happen, it's all going to be bad. Or it could be it's unknown and there are about 101 possibilities,
Yeah.
which is really liberating.
Hmm. Indeed.
Yeah. So I think this time especially, I have seen a lot of people really seeing things beyond what they would have pre-COVID,
Yeah.
for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think the sound bubs absolutely support that.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly would agree. It's a very unique opportunity to also use a session like that to also mm, unfold the learnings that is happening for that individual at this
For
present
sure.
time.
Oh yeah, during this time, so many people are going through quite a bit of pain and
Yeah.
stress, right? And like you say, it's a unique opportunity to see how you can do things differently because you could choose to stay in the pain of things not happening the way you know it and you want it, or you could ask yourself a different question, which is, okay, so what do I have right now? And what's working for me right now? How can I then take it down a different direction and explore something that I haven't had before simply because I was so comfortable, I didn't need to go there, but now I can.
Hmm.
And it's like how you see companies are all going digital.
Yeah.
So many of them wouldn't have. And this is helping the company expand in a different way that you wouldn't usually have. The companies usually wouldn't have gone down that route, and it's the same for each of us as individual. That I wouldn't have gone virtual sound baths, the
Hmm.
virtual sound baths, if not for COVID. And I'm seeing how, why wouldn't I do that? And my whole idea of maybe it wouldn't work as well was absolutely all in my head because I know for a fact that sound is sound. right? So it is a huge opportunity for us to see our resistance
Mm.
and learn and grow from that.
Yeah. And overcome our limitations as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah,
Mm.
I'm hoping that with the sound baths that I hold, it gives people the space to do exactly that.
Yeah.
So to do the personal work, to really take a look at, like I said, the limitations that we were talking about that, often there's so many limitations and just moving beyond them. Because with every modality, you can choose to either have it as a band-aid,
Mm.
so you feel better and nice and good, or you could choose to go deeper with it.
Mm.
And that's a personal choice.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Elaine. I mean, I think you answered the last question anyway, so I didn't really have to ask it. But yes, thank you. I think that was really beautiful. That yeah, I it's a huge, huge opportunity for people to expand a little bit more and unfold where their belief systems have been holding them back, and they can sort of push past it and see their true potentials sort of unfold that way. So I'm very, very glad that you have brought it to virtual, because it does, I mean, especially for moms like me, right? Like you were talking about like the next sessions on Friday at 7:30. I will definitely try, but 7:30 is exactly when my kid is going to sleep, right? So
Oh, the good thing about the virtual sound baths as well is I actually about 50% or more than 50% of of the participants are going for the recording.
yeah.
So that gives them the flexibility to use it in a window of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for busy moms like yourself, that really is very helpful. They go, oh gosh, I don't have to try and rush to a place at one time, and I can do this in a time that works for me.
Yeah.
And so in a time where I was only offering in-person sound baths, they didn't have the opportunity to do that. So
Yes.
hopefully you can come on and use a recording.
Yeah, for sure. No, I will definitely do that now that I know that it also has the recording as well. That's also so, so beneficial because I think that's so important that um when because obviously when we're so tied up with family, with work, with business and trying to make things happen, we're missing times, right? They'll be like, oh, we're doing it at this time. And I'm like, that's when we're doing this. That's when I'm doing school pickup, or this is what I'm doing with clients. And it's only so few times of the day. And it's not like everyone, because also put this thing, no one's doing a lot of spiritual sort of work, or not spiritual, I shouldn't call this just a spiritual, but no one's doing these kind of sessions late at night because it could potentially affect your sleep if you're doing something so close to bedtime.
Mm,
So obviously these sessions are not available at like 10 9 p.m.
yeah.
when
That's
yeah,
a good thing about the recording as well, because like you're saying, some people they go if after a session they're so awake,
yeah,
right? They can actually use these recordings to lead them into sleep, and then you don't have to wake up and leave the studio. They can just sleep all the way into morning.
yeah, yes,
So
yes,
that's
yes, yes.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's super convenient. I'm actually I think that's one of the beautiful things about COVID is that it's really opened up, and even though it's separated us a lot because it's put all of us back into our houses, it's actually connected us a lot more in more ways than one.
Yes, I think the connection has been definitely a lot deeper for people. I mean, the things you hear, like I've never sat with my family in front of Zoom, for 2 hours, just eating dinner together and having conversation. It would have been so bizarre, but now we are doing it, and it feels we are cherishing that a lot more because we cannot be with each other physically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that kind of connection is really beautiful, honestly.
Mm. Yeah.
When we're talking about gratitude, right?
Mm.
It's bringing people together in a different way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Elaine, for sharing all about crystal sound baths. And I am going to share all the details down in the show notes below. Thank you for all listeners. I'm so glad that the video held up. So we'll have both.
We were worried about Mercury retrograde coming in, wiping it
Yes.
out. Yeah.
And look at that. It was meant to be that the video would hold us. So thank you so much to all our viewers and our listeners on the audio episodes as well. And yeah, and see you in the next episode.